If there would be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there would be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there would be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there would be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there would be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. This is the reading on which we are basing our Bending the Arc series this year, always begun on Martin Luther King Sunday and lasting through the month of February. On this third Sunday of our series, we explore how we can bend the arc in the universe a little more towards justice by making peace between neighbors. Peace between neighbors. Now, through the first two layers of this teaching, that if there must be peace in the world, there would be peace in the nations, there would be peace in the nations, there would be peace in the cities, we're speaking in these large, sometimes sort of abstract terms. Gatherings, expanses of nondescript humanity, whom we love in a global sense, especially once we learn more about our seventh principle, honoring the interconnected, interdependent web of all being. But still, these are somewhat removed, not particularly personal, until we get to this one. If there would be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. Here's where it starts to get real. Here's where it starts to get about not some big concept that may happen someday, but what can happen right now, today. Now, my family is really blessed by the neighborhood we moved into a while back. We have really good neighbors. You see, we moved in just before Hurricane Irma arrived. And we who live in South Florida know that there is no more intense neighbor bonding experience than a hurricane. But this went even farther because we were brand new in the neighborhood. We hadn't even really unpacked much. And so all through the week of preparation, our neighbors kept coming across the street to our house and knocking on the door to be sure we had enough supplies, to be sure we had enough water, to be sure our shutters worked, and to give us their cell phone numbers in case we needed them during the storm. And then as soon as the storm was over, our phones started going off with all those neighbors checking on us to be sure we were okay. And that reminded me of having just moved here when Hurricane Andrew came through in 1992. Now, when Andrew was over, I had a big chest freezer full of frozen food and no way to cook it because I didn't have a grill and the stove was electric and we had no power. My neighbors, who were a large extended family, 3 generations in the house, didn't have much food. They had a gas grill. Now, I didn't speak much Spanish yet, and they didn't speak much English, but oh my, did we eat good. During that 35 days, we were without power in the 100-degree August heat. And then there was that February evening in 2003 when our house in Miami Springs was on fire. And food and water just appeared. We never quite knew where it came from. And then the mom next door came over to tell us that her little 10-year-old boy had made himself a bed on the sofa so we could have his room for the night once the fire chief cleared out. Thinking on these things, it occurs to me how fortunate I have been to have good neighbors. But I think a little further and have to ask myself whether I have been as good a neighbor. Our monthly theme for February is trust. We and many Unitarian Universalist congregations across the world are asked to consider what it means to become a people of trust. Now, I will bet you all at once in this moment that your human reflex, like my human reflex, goes to memories of times that your trust was broken. It goes to those moments you were disappointed, or ignored, or utterly betrayed. That happens with these things if they're not properly healed. You may even be experiencing some of those feelings all over again as we sit here together. That pain, that wounding, can make it hard to trust anyone again. Maybe your memory is not so much of people, but of institutions that let you down. If you're like me, maybe you were once told that the only people on earth that you dared ever trust outside your blood family was your church. And then your church let you down. It's true for a lot of folks in Unitarian Universalism. It's true for a lot of folks in this room. Maybe it was your family. After all, there's only about 1 billion ways our families can disappoint us. Or maybe you felt it was God. Or rather, your concept of God, or what God is or isn't, that broke your trust. Especially if you were being as good as you knew how to be, and doing as right as you knew how to do, or worse yet, you were totally innocent. And awful things happened anyway. It is a devastating theology that teaches a vindictive, punishing, and angry God. And a worse one that teaches children, or the child hearts that still live in us, that somehow we deserved it. It takes mountains of love, time, and compassion, and grace, and forgiveness, and mercy, and patience to begin to recover from that. So yes, when we ponder what it might mean to be a people of trust, we tend to reflexively first think about when our own trust was violated and how we rebuilt or are rebuilding right now in the aftermath. What if we consider it from a different perspective? What if we think about it not so much for our relearning to trust, but about our becoming a people worthy of trust? What might that work look like in beloved community? I mean, a lot of us come through these doors for the first time looking to return to wholeness. We come looking for healing and for hope. That's what beloved community is about. Beloved community, communing in love. But at some point, it's no longer about whether I'm healing. It's about whether I'm helping others to become whole. Because it is never enough that we found this place, we found this faith for ourselves. There comes a moment where we now must turn that love outward and gather in those who would come to us looking for wholeness. And for that to happen, we must be a people worthy of trust. It is important that we each become trusting once more. But if we are to be the people we hope to be, the people we say we are, living our Unitarian Universalist faith, then it is absolutely that essential that we become worthy of trust. Every time I'm here, every time we meet, I am mindful that there is at least one person in this room who came here on this day, at this time, to give religious community one last chance. I know because I was one. And all those years ago when I came through the doors, you were people who were trustworthy, while I learned again how to trust. Now let me ask you, what is this peace between neighbors that Lao Tzu teaches us about? Based in, if not trust. Principle applies with my neighbors on my street. Some of them have my house key. It applies with my neighbors in my community, people who have my heart. It applies with my neighbors in my city, my county, my state, my nation, and my world. And I must ask myself, we must ask ourselves, what does it mean to be those neighbors? Not the ones we've already invited for barbecue, but the ones we haven't. Not the ones who look like us, or sound like us, or speak like us, or love like us, or believe like us, or worship like us, but the ones who don't. Should the first question I ask myself, that we ask ourselves, be, is this person, are these people, is this tradition, is this way of thinking, is this teaching, is this doctrine one I can trust? Or rather, might we be asking ourselves, for these people, for this way of thinking, for this doctrine, for this tradition, for this belief system, am I worthy of their trust? We have a proverb in Unitarian Universalism that we need not think alike to love alike. I would like for this month to think about it. We need not think alike to trust alike. Now, hold on a second. There's a caveat to this quest to becoming trustworthy, especially among people who tend to be doers and givers. This community tends to be that kind of place. Becoming trustworthy does not mean never making a mistake or never disappointing another person. It means recognizing when we did, making amends, and having the courage to start again. This is the lesson of love and mercy and grace. The God that does not punish but welcomes us as we are, by whatever name we call that love. I intend to live it. Here's another key to doing your best not to let others down. And that is recognizing your own legitimate limits and knowing when to say no and not overcommitting. When we do that, we set ourselves and others up for disappointment. We set ourselves up to fall short and risk trust. A very wise teacher once told me, hear this, saying yes when you don't have the resources to follow through is really saying no. Saying yes when you really don't have the wherewithal to fulfill what you just said yes to, you have in fact said no. I'm just afraid to say it in the moment. If there would be peace in the world, there would be peace in the nations. If there would be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there would be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. It is learning to trust, and even more, learning to be worthy of trust. Yes, we will disappoint. There's a big bowl of erasers in my office because we're going to make mistakes. We turn around, we make amends, we begin again. But when I find my neighbors across the street from where we are, literally or figuratively, can we be the ones to make the first move? Can we be the ones to extend a hand and not wait to see whether they are worthy of our trust, but ask first, are we worthy of theirs? Do we have faith enough to step off the safe little curb of our own little lives and meet them where they are? May we bring peace between neighbors as we become a people of trust. People learning not only to trust, but a people becoming trustworthy. This is our promise.